Welcome back to the Seafarer Social Podcast, everybody. Today I'm here with Ash Dubey, a maritime lawyer and consultant based out in India who runs his own firm. Ash connected on LinkedIn a while back. He saw some of the content we were putting out, especially around some big prolific cases like Ali Albokhari, and he decided that he wanted to come on the podcast, and I was absolutely honoured to have him on. And we had a discussion since, and I found out a lot of interesting things about Ash that we're going to discuss today. But the first place to start before we go anywhere is, how's it going, Ash?
Oh well, just finished up with the Festival of Holi. It's called the Festival of Colors, and it was a wonderful experience. Enjoying it throughout the weekend. It's still weekend out here, and we had a gala time. A lot of relaxing, lot of colors, lots of sweets, lots of fried stuff. So yeah, things are going pretty well in India. How's it in England?
Yeah, it's the same here. I've got a lot of friends from India here in the UK. Actually, a couple of seafarer friends of mine from India here, and they all headed to London on yesterday to celebrate. And I also saw a lot of videos coming from the Indian seafarers on board, and the Indian seafarers back in their home country. And it appears that this festival, the Festival of Colours, is a real big celebration for the Indian people. So happy that you were able to enjoy this celebration, and hopefully one day I can be part of it. It'd be amazing to experience something like this in India.
Absolutely. We are waiting to welcome you.
So Ash,
Yeah,
yeah, thank you, man. So Ash, let's get straight into it. So
yeah,
you're a maritime lawyer, and on this podcast, we talk to primarily seafarers, but every so often we speak to those whose decisions impact the lives of seafarers. What I find really interesting about yourself, and something that we discussed about, is you actually come from a family of seafarers, right?
yeah. That's correct. My father's a chief engineer. My elder brother is a
So
captain,
tell me a little
seafaring
bit.
captain. Yeah,
So father's a chief engineer. Your brother is a captain.
yeah.
What made you decide to not pursue a career as a seafarer yourself?
Because precisely I've seen the life of seafarers, wherein I've had to see the downsides also, because only half of my existing life I've seen my father, and I'm the only child. My parents do not have any other. I do not have any more siblings. So I've seen the downsides of it, wherein my mother used to raise me single-handedly for most of the times because my father was seafaring for at least 8 to 9 months in a year. And after 2, 3 months of home time, he used to go back to sail. So this got me to understand that look, your family suffers a lot. For seafarers, their family suffers in silence because their family life is almost zero. I'm telling you this from my own experience. So that is what made me understand that look, it's better to have a shore job wherein in the logistics sector or let's say any law firm or even shipping companies. But it's better to be onshore rather than being out there at sea. I've seen my brothers, I've seen my family members. So I had made the choice that no, I'll not take up this profession. But God had different plans. I did my law, that is undergraduation in law, and subsequently I pursued my maritime law, that is post graduation in maritime law. And now I'm a maritime lawyer. So God has different plans, and that's how you work along with it.
Nice. So what was the first initial interest that you had in law as a practice? What was it that inspired you originally to consider law? Because you said, yeah, you didn't want to become a seafarer. You could have, and you wanted to pursue a shore-based role, but you could have done anything. You could have done anything. What
Yeah.
specifically drew you to law?
Law was actually by an accident. There is an academy in India. It's called the National Defense Academy. It's for the defense forces in India. So I was selected for the National Defense Academy. Sadly, what happened was my father was sailing at that point in time. Okay. And my mother got the call up letter. It's called the call up letter, wherein you get selected and the government calls you to join the National Defense Academy, which is in Pune. It's a city, outskirts of a city. Then my father said, nothing doing. You are the only child, and we do not want any casualty in the family. So that is what made me move towards law. Then I took up the common law admission test. It's a national test for all law students. I mean, law aspiring students. And I got a good rank. And by accident, I joined the legal profession. It was not out of my own volition, I would say. My own volition was to join the Indian Armed Forces. So that's how my life has been. Some accidents have happened. Some are going to happen in the future, probably. So that's how law came about.
Nice. And your parents, were they happy with your decision to pursue law instead of becoming a seafarer?
It's a 50-50 answer. My mother is quite happy with it. My father, not very happy with that because of the fact that the amount of money that is involved in seafaring is humongous. Let me tell you. As a seafarer, the amount of money that you make is not usually comparable to what you earn on shore. Because let's say a 22-year-old or a 21-year-old seafarer, when you become a deck cadet, then at that point in time, if you see the amount of money that your colleagues are making and the amount of money that you are making, is the amount of difference is substantial, right? You make 12 to $13,000 per month. That is the amount of money that you're making at 20, 23 years of age, 24 years of age. Your compatriots probably are making two, $3,000 a month. That too, a good money, a good show job. So that is what my father relented. But now, at the age of 32, I believe the decision has paid off very well because as maritime lawyers, we charge a certain amount of fee, which is a good amount of the claim that is there. I also take up claims for seafarers because that is what is very near to my heart, very close to my heart, the problems of seafarers, because I come from a seafaring family. So that is how my journey has been. And to give you an answer, a precise answer, it's a 50-50, it's a mixed bag sort of a decision for my parents.
Sure. I can understand
Yeah.
that. I think you're totally right. When I speak to seafarers, it's the kind of career which has really high ups and really low downs. Whereas, shore-based jobs, we just sort of live in the middle, right? It's we
Yeah.
we, we kind of live in normality. One thing I will say that I'm interested in asking you about is earlier on you mentioned the concept of how when your father was away, it was really difficult for you to feel that family spirit because he was at sea. My question to you is: when I've spoke to some families of seafarers, they said that actually seafarers, especially fathers, are sometimes the best fathers when they're seafarers because what happens is when they're at sea, they completely disconnect. They're away. They're in work mode. And then when they come home, they have no distractions. They can be a dad. They can be a husband. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely accurate. My father used to pamper me a lot. He pampers me a lot even to this day when I'm 32 years of age. So that's quite correct that you have undivided attention of your father. That's quite right. You don't get scolded by your father. That's also there. You get pampered a lot. You won't get any sort of whacking, I would say. I've never gotten any whacking from my father for any sort of mischief that I've done. So, yes, the families that have spoken to you are quite right when they say that they have undivided attention. But then again, whenever they are there with you, when they're not there, then you miss them wholeheartedly. Because out there, nowadays, you have internet connections. Nowadays, you have sat phones to talk to your father, to talk to your well wishers out there. But back in our time, it wasn't there. At weeks length, you go without talking to them. Probably once in a month, you can have a word with your father for 2, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. That's it. Because they're sailing out there. And the speed of the ships back then was not very high as they are now. Because we now have more potent engines, more powerful engines. At that point in time, I'm talking about 90s and early 2000s, even up to 2016. My father sailed up to 2018. So yeah, that was the sad state of affairs, you can call it. But now things have changed for the better, and you have internet on board. You can talk to your father, your brother via video calls, via chat. There are many facilities nowadays. So yeah, the problems were there, but they have subsided to a substantial extent. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Seafaring has definitely changed with the introduction of SAT communications, and
Yeah.
because it's becoming competitive, we're seeing that there's more people that are coming into the market now. There's Inmarsat, Marlink, Starlink. So we're hoping that as future goes on, it'll get cheaper and cheaper and more accessible to more seafarers. But even right now, as we speak, the vast majority of vessels, seafaring vessels, are connected, which is a good news. Hopefully, we can get to a point where it's mandatory for all. Um, yeah, so I want to talk a little bit more about something you mentioned earlier on. Seafaring is very close to your heart. You come from a family of seafarers. Um, There's a particular case that we discussed in length. Recently, I spoke to the wife of Ali Albokhari on the podcast, and you saw this, and we discussed it behind closed doors together. Firstly, let me ask you from your perspective, how much are you aware of this case, and why do you think Ali got into the position that he's in?
Okay, to give you a background about Ali's case is I'm associated with him, that is Ali Albokhari and his wife Elena Albokhari. We have taken up the matter with the IMO itself. That is, we have written to the IMO and ICLOS, that is International Tribunal for Law of the Sea. We have submitted a petition regarding his release. That is one, because I'm associated with Global Sea and Shore Community. It's a community of seafarers and seafaring professionals who have now moved on shore. So we as a community have approached ICLOS as well as IMO to secure the release of Marco Bekavac, who is the captain, and Chief Officer Ali Al-Bukhari. Now, to answer the second part of your query, the reason why Ali is in that position is because he refused to carry a cargo of narcotic substances from South America to Turkey. And that is the reason why we are of the firm belief, not as my client, but as a genuine human being, I'm absolutely sure that he is being targeted as a scapegoat. He he's being targeted as an object of vendetta because the people who wanted him, I mean, the captain and the chief officer, they wanted him to carry the cargo. They both of them refused, and now they are taking revenge against these people by getting them incarcerated for absolutely false allegations. Absolutely false. Everybody knows this. Even the Turkish government authorities know this. But due to the fact that behind the curtains, a lot of things are going on, he has been made the victim of absolutely bad politics. Bad politics. That is the reason why we want, if you say that fine, he's the culprit, he's the accused, fine. But show the evidence for it. If you don't have evidence based on circumstantial facts, based on absolutely concocted facts, you are trying to implicate a person who has nothing to do. He just refused to do something which is illegal. And now you are settling scores with that person. His whole family is in ruins. His wife, Elena Al-Bukhari, travels from Finland to Turkey for a 40-minute meeting with him every single month. Imagine the amount of monetary implications, monetary trouble that they are in. People are not responding within the Turkish government authorities. Even the appeal was dismissed without giving any cogent reason. Would you believe this? When everything is against you, when everything has been pitted against you, how do you expect a fair trial in that country? It's absolutely not possible. That is the reason why we have approached the Honorable International Maritime Organization and the Honorable International Tribunal for Law of the Sea to take up this matter and at least secure the bail of both these people. Let them go back to their native residences, native countries. And then if you want to try them in their own country. Because we cannot expect them to be tried, given a fair trial of hearing in this country, in Turkey. It's absolutely not possible. I've seen through all the arguments, all the case orders that are there. It's absolutely mind-boggling to see how falsely both of them have been implicated. So yes, this is the sad state of affairs, and I'm sure that probably the IMO will take up this case.
And Ash, what I also find absolutely gobsmacking is that this particular case is very close to your heart because the exact same thing happened to your father.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah. This happened in 1997. I was a 5-year-old child back then. Okay. Without any communications, I'll give you a brief about the facts itself. My father was a chief engineer back then. He was a newly appointed chief engineer. He was a second engineer, and that was his first sailing as a chief engineer. This is he had to travel from Nigeria to Turkey. The top 4 people, that is the captain, chief engineer, chief officer, and the second engineer, were called up by the bareboat charterers. Now, there are different types of chartering which happens. The ship owners had given their ship on a bareboat demise charter to the charterers themselves. So they become the despondent owners. So the charterers asked these people to carry a cargo of 120 kilos of marijuana in the sea chest. Okay, marijuana, this is what I'm talking about. All 4 of them refused. That, not possible, sir. It's illegal. Our lives are at stake. Our careers are at stake. We'll not carry this. So they said, fine, no worries. Don't worry. they were carrying cement clinkers. So cement is made out of clinkers. So it was a bulk ship, bulk vessel. From Nigeria, they sailed off to Turkey. And when in Turkey, when the inspection was going on, it's been beneath this place called sea chest. In that sea chest, marijuana was placed by the underwater divers. And the captain and the chief engineer were immediately arrested. Immediately. On 12th of February 1997, this I'm talking about. That was the day when both of them were arrested. Then trial took place, no evidence, no malafide was found out by these people, by the government authorities on the captain and the chief engineer. Even then, without any rhyme or reason, they were still incarcerated for the next 14 months. In the meanwhile, my family, that is my mother and my grandfather, they approached the shipping company. The shipping company approached the government of India. The government of India intervened. And basis on the request of the government of India, then my father was released. That too after 14 months of incarceration without any reason. He was released on the 6th of April 1998. Would
Wow.
you believe that? So this has happened with my family itself. I've seen how things get so very bad. My mother, she couldn't sleep at nights. I was a 5-year-old child. Imagine my agony, my mother's agony, not seeing my father for the next 14 months without any rhyme or reason, just because he did not want to do the wrong thing. He was on the right side of the law. He didn't want to take that risk of, and mind you, he was being offered a bonus on this. All four of the top four officers were offered bonus to carry this cargo, but they refused, and the top two people had to pay the price.
So did
So
your did
this, yeah,
how did this affect your father's mental health? Did you notice a change in him? Was he a changed man after he came out of jail?
I was a very small child. I was just a 6-year-old when all of this was happening. I was 5-year-old when he got arrested, and by the time he came home, I was already 6.5 years of age. So mental health, probably I'm not very well aware, but certainly he became a much more quite a person. He was a very jolly person. Even now he's quite jolly, but that left a very deep scarring effect on him. For many months, he couldn't talk to people in an open space. That I'm very well, I can remember that because I was a small child. Not many things I remember after so many years. 27 years it has been to that incident. But yes, it had a very profound effect on my father's mental health. I would definitely say that. Yes.
Did he ever discuss with you, now you're an adult, his experience of being in jail?
Yes,
How
many a
how
times.
how was the experience for him?
They used to harass him. They used to tie the hands up of these people, of the two of them, and they used to whack them. Would you believe that?
No way.
Physical beatings, so that they own up and sign a piece of paper saying that we are actually liable for this. Because they refused, they were beaten up mercilessly. He had bruises on his back when he came home. I remember this bruises, blue bruises of big whacks given to him.
Wow.
And he discusses this even today. Had he been here, I would have called him. He would have sat here and discussed it with you. He has gone somewhere. He's not available right now. Otherwise, I would have made him tell his side of the story. He has been a sufferer in that same very space, in that same very country, 20 years ago.
Wow, heavy stuff. Perhaps we can discuss this with your father another time, but that's
Yeah,
crazy experience. Um, was he when he was in jail? Was he locked up with the captain, or were they separated?
they were separated. They were separated, and only when the beating time used to come every evening at 4:30, they used to be clubbed together in one big room, and they used to beat both of them for the next 7 days. This happened for 7 days. When they understood that they'll not sign, then they stopped the beating. For 7 straight days, they were beaten up every single day, and they were asked that you sign this paper and this will stop. They refused because they knew the moment they signed this, it's death bed for them. Because it was a piece of paper wherein it was mentioned that we have done this and we agree to whatever is written in this document. They
Wow.
refused.
How once the government of India got involved, how quick did things change?
It took around 4.5, 5 months for his release. They got involved in December 1997, and April 6th of April he was back home. I mean, back in India. And then the debriefing took place, and by 7th or 8th of April, he was back home with us. So yeah, around 5 months of time was lapsed to secure his release.
Jesus. And did he go back to sea once he came back, or did he retire?
No, no, no. He went back to sail around
Wow.
6 months after this. Yeah, he went back to sail. Yeah,
With a different
and he kept
shipping
sailing.
company?
Yeah, yeah, with a different shipping company. He never sailed with that company any further. And with different shipping companies, he was there. He was with Anglo Eastern. He was with Maersk Line, so on and so forth. Even fleet management. So that was up till 2018 when he stopped sailing.
Okay. And did he ever go back to this particular Turkish port?
Never. No, no, no. Never. He never went back. It's absolutely horrendous to even imagine going back into that same place, seeing
Yeah.
that same port, seeing that same. So it's a lot of trauma. So he said whenever we used to get any kind of orders from the shipping company or from the charterers, either he used to sign off or he used to say that nothing doing, it has happened with me, will not go. So sometimes the companies did agree, sometimes he just signed off. He came back. So yeah,
Wow.
that has happened in the past.
So he had some severe, and of course it makes sense, but he had some severe PTSD off the back of this as well.
Absolutely. He still has it. He still has it. He's very shy when he discusses that. I told him about Elena's case came up to us in in December. In December, Elena approached us, that is Global Sea and Shore Community. And since then, I discussed this with my father. And when he was discussing it, I could see it from his demeanor that he's not very comfortable in discussing all of this. And to add to the mix, it did not come out in the public media. There was no talk about, no chatter. There was no social media back then. And even the mainstream media never used to bother about what is happening with the seafarers. Only now that we are seeing some sort of activity in the social media about global seafaring community. Back then, it was absolutely shadowed, absolutely opaque. Yeah.
And here's the other thing, Ash, as well. This is something else we spoke about. When I was speaking to Alina, she expressed to me that Ali's family are all based in Syria. In
Yeah.
fact, they have not told Ali's mother yet that he's been
Mm.
sentenced. She still believes that he's waiting to go on trial because they fear that if they tell her this, she's an older lady, if they tell her this, it's going to destroy her. Now, in their case, this is a small family based in Syria who have limited access to resources like media and so on and so forth. Alina has obviously she lives in a European country. She has access to platforms and has really well promoted her husband's story. But in your circumstance with your father and maybe other cases that you've seen, how many of these unfair seafarer criminalisation cases happen and nobody hears about it?
It happens every day, every single day. I'm telling you this from my own experience. I've written it to the government of India regarding an RTI, right to information, and the figure that I got was 598, 98 people who have been incarcerated, whether falsely or not, that they don't know. But yes, the amount of incarceration only of one single country in the world, that is India, Indian seafarers amounting to 598 number have been incarcerated and they are presently they have been sentenced to different years of imprisonment in different jurisdictions across the globe. Most of them are in Pakistan. Would you believe that? Most of them.
Really?
Yeah, most of them. Because what happens is we have overlapping exclusive economic zones, overlapping jurisdictions. So the Pakistani Navy catches the Indian merchant marine and then uses them as bait, as objects of encashment for different diplomatic reasons with the government of India. This is the reality. Because
Yeah,
when they catch them, yeah, you're saying,
that's a very, very interesting point because something else we touched upon is the political side of things.
yeah,
Um, in Ali's case, he is a European citizen, but
yeah,
he comes from a Syrian family. And for those who follow geopolitics, they will know that there has always been tension between Turkey and Syria. So it makes you
yeah,
question, actually whether or not. And it's interesting now you're raising that these 598 Indian seafarers, most of them are based in Pakistan. Again, with that geopolitics perspective, everybody knows there's always been tension between Pakistan and India. So I wonder if a lot of these cases are also used, that innocent seafarers are dragged into becoming geopolitic puppets
Yeah.
that can be used for transactions like you're saying, which frankly is horrendous.
Yeah, it happens with the. Let's not talk about seafarers for a moment. Let's talk about fishermen. Indian fishermen have been in jails in different nearby littoral states of the Indian Ocean. And they are then used, as you mentioned rightly, as geopolitical puppets so that to satisfy the political aims of different jurisdictions. There is a prisoner exchange. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. When people have been made for implicated falsely for different crimes. Because if you implant something on somebody's body or on somebody's person or objects, then if you implicate them, they cannot, most of the people, most of the fishermen are hardly educated. They're most of them not even educated, basics, not even basically educated. Then when they do not know what is the next step, what legal rights do I have, what conventions am I governed by, then they are left to die in different jurisdictions. Even their family do not get to know. Seafarers, most of, let's say, the ratings, who have very basic education, not the officers. Officers have understanding of the legal rights and duties. But the ratings, the men, the sailors, if they are falsely implicated, or let's say they go out to some other jurisdiction to join a ship and some mishappening occurs with them, who would take up their case? Because they don't have the financial means to sustain. That is one. Secondly, they cannot get in touch with their loved ones back home. Even if they get in touch, how will they manage the expenses of a lawyer in a different jurisdiction, which has a different exchange rate, has a different system of law? So do you understand the amount of implications, the amount of eccentricities involved in such multi-jurisdiction cases, which more often than not see the seafarers involved in the whole of the mix. And that becomes a really, really bad situation for them because they don't know where to go. And that is how they are left to die.
It's shocking stuff. This has really made me think. When you look at things from a security perspective, it's like, as citizens of a nationality, when you're living in your country and you're on shore, you're protected by your surroundings, your local police department, your community. But once you go to sea, you're fair game. You're so exposed, which is just phenomenal. And it's interesting that you mentioned fishermen, because actually I spoke to somebody just recently who runs a foundation called Fish Safety Foundation in New Zealand. And the fishing community is a very, very interesting trade because it doesn't get spoken about. But there are literally tens of millions of fishermen around the world who are on small, tiny vessels with some can't even afford a life jacket. And these guys and girls are dying every day. And no one knows, no one speaks about them. And most of the time they're just doing it to feed their family. But it really, really interests me because you're looking at things from a completely different perspective. How do we maintain the same level of security for seafarers, for anybody working on the sea? How do we maintain the same level of security for them that they would have if they were at home? That's the trick here, right? How do we maintain that same level of security? Whose responsibility do you think this lies on?
Initially, it lies on the IMO because the IMO is the overarching body. However, even the jurisdiction, the states who are involved, let's say India or UK, Philippines, US, the major seafaring contributing nations are just a handful of them. Their laws need to be tightened up. That's the first thing. Their internal legal systems need to be tightened up and they must coordinate amongst each other, amongst the international legal systems. Because the international legal system, I'm telling you, it's a free for all game. Because the open sea is the global common, and out there in the high seas, you have the UNCLOS, that is United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. It has many loopholes in it. Those loopholes need to be plugged. That is one. The global seafaring contributing nations need to have a common platform wherein at least in such cases, let's say Ali Albokhari's case, when you know that there is a common platform wherein we can approach, we can talk to those people that, look, this has happened with us, and we want some sort of legal assistance. We want some sort of legal representation for lawyers who can go out there and represent us. They should go out there and take up a case. It shouldn't be that they are they're left to fend for themselves. That shouldn't happen. Right now, Ali Albokhari and Elena Albokhari are left to fend for themselves. Neither the shipping company is helping, nor the government is helping. The Turkish government itself is absolutely against them. Then where will they go? Even if they go to the ITF, they will say that go to your own jurisdiction, your own country, Finland. They'll approach Finland, and then there's lot many problems. So there must be a common platform, at least for the major seafarer contributing nations, wherein if any seafarer is in distress, they can just give one call, or if the family members can give one call, and they will get representation in whichever jurisdiction across the globe. That should be the case. There should be a common legal platform to support them. Because if something goes wrong, I'm telling you, there is no one to help the seafarers. Fishermen come next, but seafarers, there's no one. Because fishermen are flying near the coast, near your sea coast, within, let's say, territorial sea or contiguous zone or EEZ, whatever. But seafarers are going beyond jurisdictions, beyond the zones. So then they need some sort of common legal protection from a common legal platform of all these nations, at least the global ones who are the major contributors of seafarers.
It's a great point, Ash. Great point. I think, when we speak about seafaring on this platform, quite often we are talking about stories that are frankly negative, and that's because you can't hide from the truth. There is a lot of negativity in this industry, but there is positivity as well. And I guess I want to close up by getting your thoughts on, given all of this, bad legalities that we're talking about, and unfortunate circumstances. If your father was sat next to you right now, and we asked your father, would you recommend, let's say, do you have children yourself, Ash, or not?
No, I'm unmarried.
Okay. So let's say that hopefully one day you have your own son, and you produce or a daughter, and you produce your father a grandchild. Do you think that your father would suggest a career of seafaring to their grandchild?
Probably yes, because he loves the sea. He would still say, yeah, go out there, live a life full of adventure. But then he would also say to me, as a father, that look, get some sort of legal protection for him or her. Until you have that, flying in uncharted waters is a very risky job nowadays. Because once one wrong move, and you will be thrown in the jail before you can even blink your eye. I'm telling you this from my own experience. Every single day, I'm getting cases of seafarers who have been cheated, who have been wrongly implicated in different cases. So allow me to go through a case which happened very recently. Last year, a client of mine, he was a second officer. He got falsely implicated in a case wherein he was said to threaten the captain of the ship. That is, the captain, who's the master of the ship, he was implicated that he has threatened the master of the ship, and he was taken off. He was signed off from the ship along with a trainee marine engineer. After some time, when we got to know, the real reason was the chief engineer was not in good terms with the trainee marine engineer, and the TME and the chief officer were good buddies, were good friends. So to make it look like that they have colluded and threatened the master of the ship, because threatening the master of the ship is a big problem. Okay, then at that moment you are immediately signed off. So to settle scores, the chief engineer falsely implicated the chief officer as well as the trainee marine engineer and got them both signed off. So the matter went to court, and we got an order for my client, that is the chief officer, securing the full 6 months of wages as well as penalty for from the chief engineer, not from the shipping company, from the chief engineer. He had to pay up the penalty. for
Wow.
wrongly implicating someone. So yeah, these things are happening every single day.
Are you hopeful for the future, Ash? Do you think that we will enter a world where there is more justice for seafarers and our seafarers are more protected legally?
I would suggest that you and I need to start working for it. If you want a better future for our seafaring communities, if you want a better future for our brothers and sisters who are seafarers, we need to start working now as a global community on any platform, wherever it is. We need to collaborate, we need to unite, and only then will we have a better future. Just talking about it won't help. We need to actually put boots on the ground and get the work done. Get the nationalities, get the global community aware about what our problems are. The global trade is happening because of us, because of the seafaring community. If we want our voices to be heard, we need to come together and work in a very collaborated fashion. Only then will we have a better future.
I agree. I agree. Thank you so much, Ash, for taking your time to speak to me today. And this has been a fantastic conversation. I think that a lot of people that are going to listen to us are going to have a lot of eye-opening experiences. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate your story. I'd love to be able to speak to your father. I'd love to be able to work with you in the future. But thank you so much for taking up a little bit of your Sunday to speak with me. And yeah, hopefully we can do this again.
Certainly, certainly. It was a pleasure to talk to you. And if our voices are heard in the international community, this is a very small contribution that we have made. 1 hour of a Sunday afternoon is a very small contribution that we can make to better the lives of our seafarers. I look forward to speaking with you again, and let's hope we can have a better future for our community.
Well
Thank you.
said. Thank you, Ash.